What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast and odds.com. This is the preliminary portion of the post weigh-in recap. Today is Friday. We are on October 30th. Tomorrow is spooky day. It's Halloween and we've got UFC fights on Halloween. I'm so pumped up for it. If you haven't been here before, what we do on this part of the show is we take one last shot to squeeze some value out of these fights. We look at body language. We look at tells. We look at the eyes of the fighters. We look at the face-offs and we try and see exactly where these guys are at mentally and physically before they step in the cage and see if we can't make a little bit of money based off of those reads. So far, we've been pretty dang sharp on this post weigh-in show, so let's dig right on into UFC Vegas 12 and see what we can come away with this week. The first fight of the night, we've got Miles Johns taking on Kevin Natividad. We've got Johns coming in at 135. Natividad made 134.5. Y'all know, first and foremost, I'm already on Kevin Natividad here in this favorite. I tweeted that out way earlier in the week, and if you tailed me, we got plus 170 or plus 150 on this line. Money has come in on Natividad. He's sitting around plus 125 at this point, so we've already done our job. We smashed that line move. We got way ahead of the market, and we are in a good spot. Now it's just up to Kevin to get the damn thing done. Miles Johns, he looked fantastic at weigh-ins, though. Incredibly ripped. However, he was very slow and deliberate moving. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was in any way having a bad weight cut or anything. It's one of the signs I look for when I see if people have had a bad weight cut is they're very, very careful about where they put their feet. They don't have their balance the way they're used to. They don't want to trip. They don't want to fall. It wasn't quite to that level, but it was just a little something that I did notice. Kevin Natividad, he came in great shape. He moved exceptionally well. He seemed to have plenty of energy. And then when these guys faced off, they sized up very, very well. Now, Johns was just a little bit bigger. It was a great stare down. Both guys seemed extremely confident. And one of Kevin Natividad's coaches tweeted at me saying that the Kevin at plus 170 was a great pick. So we'll go ahead and cross our fingers there that we are on the right side. I didn't see anything that would pull me off of it at the weigh-ins. Cortney Casey versus Priscila Cachoeira. Unfortunately, it was announced this morning. This fight is off. I was very much looking forward to putting a bet in on Cortney Casey. I was going to take her inside the distance. I thought this was a great spot for her to take advantage of Cachoeira. However, Cachoeira apparently had COVID, and then she got sick with, I think she said dengue fever or something like that, something crazy, and she wasn't able to make weight. So they had to go ahead and pull her for medical reasons. Highly unfortunate. We are missing a fight for tomorrow. Now, Dustin Jacoby taking on Justin Ledet. Jacoby came in at 205, and he looked pretty good, but a little bit slim here at 205. Justin Ledet came in at 205.5, and honestly, it was maybe the best shape I've ever seen him in. He's not a guy that's ever exceptionally ripped or exceptionally built or anything like that, but he looked really good today. Gave a big flex, was smiling on the scales. When they faced off, kind of uncharacteristic for Ledet, he got in Jacoby's face. He leaned in and was... I couldn't tell with the mask on if he was smiling or if he was mean mugging him, but you could see the veins popping out in his neck. He looks like he's really ready to go in this fight. And honestly, this is the one spot on the card where I'm extremely tempted to take this big, fat, juicy underdog. We've got Jacoby, who's sitting damn near a 4-1 favorite at this point, and I just don't see it. I don't think he is worth that level of a betting line. I mean, he probably should be favored here in this spot, but he's a kickboxer. He's not a great MMA fighter. He went 0-2 in the UFC before he got booted out, and he's 1-2 in his last 3 and still somehow got the call up here. Even though Ledet hasn't been spectacular in the UFC, he's on a 3-fight skid at the moment. Those are against really hyped up prospects, and I'm not sold on Jacoby, so I'm very tempted to roll the dice here on Justin Ledet. He looks like he's good to go. He looks like he's in shape. He's durable. He has shown some improvements in his last couple of fights, and I think Jacoby just isn't worth this price tag. So if there was ever a value spot where I was going to say, you know what, the fighter's got an outside shot at a win and this line is off, this is the one that I would take a poke at. Cole Williams taking on Jason Witt. The fight that I couldn't get anywhere near earlier in the week has become one of my favorite plays. Williams missed weight by 4.5 pounds. Williams came in at 175.5 for his 170-pound fight, and he looked a little bit flabby. He's got the skinny fat thing going on where he was, you could see some muscle in a couple of places, and then it just kind of rolled off into love handles. Not that I'm, judging or anything. He had some man boobage going on, though. Jason Witt came in at 170.5. Business as usual. He was ready to go, in good shape, and I heard an interview earlier this week where he basically said that he's planning on cooking Williams. And what that means for those of you who aren't, comfortable with the lingo really in MMA yet, Cooking is when you get on top of somebody on the ground and you basically make them work or survive from the bottom. It's the most draining thing you could ever do to somebody. If you've ever been to a jiu-jitsu class, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When someone's got their knee on your chest or your stomach and they're just putting all their weight down on you, it's fun for them, it sucks for you, and it destroys your gas tank. Considering that's his game plan, and Cole Williams appears to have had a rough weight cut, barely made the 5-pound allotment before, the athletic commission would basically shut the fight down. I'm starting to lean Witt here in this spot. Williams was a bit bigger at the weigh-ins, and that was something that I was a little bit concerned with, but I did go ahead and play the under in this fight, simply because Witt has had some chin issues. He's been clipped a couple times. He's been hurt before, and if Williams carrying that extra weight comes out like a man on a mission, he could put him down and put him away. However, if he doesn't manage that, the way he looks, the shape he's in, I think Witt will have no problem cooking him and then finishing with a submission a little bit later in the fight. Sean Strickland coming in here at 185.5, taking on Jack Marshman, and he also missed weight. Marshman came in at 187.5. Sean Strickland coming up from 170. He was a massive 170 fighter, finally moving up to 185 after that horrific accident that he was in. Built extremely well. The extra muscle really looked good on his frame. Very relaxed at the weigh-ins. Didn't seem to have any issues. Jack Marshman, however, is kind of a blown-up 170-pounder himself, but he looked a little deflated. He looked really low energy, and I didn't see any fire in his eyes. He was a little bit flabby. Another guy who I suspect had a very, very rough weight cut. Strickland is a decent amount bigger. He looks like he's a full weight class bigger than Marshman. He looks like he belongs at 185, whereas Marshman probably still should get his way down to 170 if he was, optimally doing what he's supposed to. So this is another spot where I've gone ahead and added in a little something on this fight. Sean Strickland is a huge favorite, and he's not somebody I wanted to lay that kind of a price tag with because of the long layoff, because we didn't know what he would look like coming back. Skill for skill, he's definitely the better fighter here in this spot, and with the way Marshman came in overweight and the grappling advantage I expect that Sean Strickland should have in this fight, I'm going to go ahead and take him inside the distance. I think he's going to get Marshman out of there in this fight, and we're getting a plus price tag on that instead of laying the 3-to-1 chalk. Next up, we've got Adrian Yanez taking on Victor Rodriguez. Yanez came in at 135.5, moved extremely well, looked excited, really amped up to make his UFC debut. Victor Rodriguez, the short notice replacement, came in at 133. So really interesting that he weighed in under the weight limit here as a short notice replacement. Very suspect. He was in good shape, built well. I like what I see from him. And let's just talk about this for a second. He's got the lips kiss tattoo on his chest. That's a foul. I can never support anybody who does that. I mean, okay. So you think the ladies like you, we get it. But really on your tit, like you got to put the tattoo there. So what we have at the weigh-ins was very, very intense, very fast. Victor Yanez got up nose to nose with these guys. Dana had to get in there and split them up. This is going to be a great fight for as long as it lasts. I don't know if Victor Rodriguez is going to be able to keep up for 15 minutes. I think Yanez is going to end up winning this thing by knockout, but we will find out. With these low-level prospects, you really never know how these things are going to go. The last fight on the preliminary card is Chris Gruetzemacher taking on Alexander Hernandez. Gruetzemacher came in at 155.5, and he was a little unstable getting on the scale. He looked like his balance was off just a hair. No flex, left immediately after, and he weighed in with 1 minute left on the clock. He was the second to last person to actually get on the scale today, which, again, these are the kinds of signs that have me believing maybe he had a bit of a tough cut. He only made it with that half-pound allowance, and with that little wobble getting up on the scale, and the fact that he took the entire time necessary to weigh in means he was probably still cutting this morning. Alexander Hernandez came in at 155 as well, but he was first to the scale. He's business as usual here. He knew exactly what he was doing. He seemed pumped up. He seems confident. When they faced off, Alexander Hernandez had all the energy. He jogged up to his opponent. It was a respectful face-off, not the usual Hernandez gimmicks, which I talked about this on Monday's podcast. I think he's had a mental adjustment. I think Hernandez is not being quite as cocky, quite as confident and overconfident as he has been in the past, and I think that's going to pay dividends for him here. I think it's going to be a situation where if he changes gears, if he's a little bit more subdued, if he takes his time in these fights, maybe he can do what we saw him do when he first got on the UFC scene. I'm expecting a win for Alexander Hernandez here. I would lean towards the submission, but him getting it done by decision is not out of the question either. If Chris Gruetzemacher is able to hang in there and be tough and durable like we saw him before, but that was 2 years ago. So we will see what happens. That's it for the prelims, folks. That's that's the prelim reads. Now, we do have a main card weigh-in read video that's going to be coming out, but that's going to be exclusive to odds.com. YouTube has been doing phenomenal for us, but we got to get some traffic over at odds.com. So we will put that link in the description right here for you below. Click that link. It'll take you right over to odds.com. Hang out with me for the main event read section of the post weigh-in video. Thank you all very much for your love, your support. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Good luck on your action, and let's roll.